Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, over the last 10 years, central government has gradually reduced the funding it provides to Havering. This is something that previous administrations have had to work with, and it's something that this coalition is now having to do. And the task ahead is huge. Inflation has added an estimated £10 million to costs in this year alone, and we urgently need the government to complete its long overdue fair funding review. Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, cuts to services will have to be made. On these statements, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure this entire chamber agrees. With that in mind, it is vital that this coalition makes the right cuts in the right places. I'll never forget the sight and smell, Mr. Mayor. I was heading out the door to work when raw human sewage flooded out of my bathroom cabinets and across the floor. It took me well over an hour to clear it up, another hour to repair the broken sewage pipe, and of course a cost to me doing so. And I'm one of the lucky ones able to do it myself. But that wasn't the end of it. 3 times this happened over the next 3 days. The same thing. The cause became clear as I stepped out of the shower on the 3rd day, and I was greeted by a large rat sat in the middle of my bathroom. It dived into the cabinets and straight into the toilet waste pipe. It didn't take long for pest control to find the problem. Rats nested in the loft of the flats, and they had a ready food supply in the communal bins. They were breeding fast, and these were bins that were emptied every single week. We don't have space for a second bin in our flats. We only get one small recycling bin between all of them, and despite the heroic efforts of our bin collectors, they cannot keep on top of all of the waste. And this scenario is played out in flats and homes across my ward. In Drummond Road, just this year, a communal bin store caught fire, fuelled by uncollected waste. It goes to show why, Mr. Mayor, any loss of weekly bin collections must be very carefully considered. Now, I expect what I'm about to witness is members of the coalition standing up one by one to tell us we need to lobby central government, that it's the fault of reduced funding, and probably some will stand up and make some national party political points. The coalition's going to tell us they're running a consultation and they'll listen to that. But it's not good enough, Mr. Mayor. The consultation gives a vague set of numbers in what is clearly an uncosted fantasy. They keep telling us to work with them. Well, I am, by marking their homework. According to the consultation, the coalition's proposals are to introduce wheelie bins. But take note, there is no costing for these bins, so I asked around. I've been informed by the officer they're working on an assumption of £20 a bin, plus delivery, plus stickers, plus comms, and plus new bin lifts. With over 100,000 homes in Havering, that's £2 million committed on wheelie bins in year 1. The highlighted savings being £650,000. Now, depending on who I speak to, that's an annual cost or it's an MTFS cost. However, earlier today, the Cabinet member told me that £650,000 is savings over 4 years. Quick maths, that's roughly £160,000 per year. So, after spending £2 million on wheelie bins, it'll take over 12 years before they get that money back in savings. Most of us won't even be councillors by the time this scheme pays for itself. These are not the actions of an administration that needs to urgently find savings. And if they can suddenly find £2 million for wheelie bins, perhaps they could consider finding £100,000 to fund our citizens' advice service. It gets even murkier. I have in writing confirmation the saving is based on the amount of waste reduced per year. So Havering's going to magically produce less waste just because our bins are collected every 2 weeks. The reality is our refuge workers will have to collect the same amount of waste in half the time. The reality is our neighbourhoods will get messier, the residents will suffer, and our bank balance will hardly be better for it. This administration and their budget consultation is misleading the public, and they are claiming that they've highlighted a saving. This is not clear. I urge the Council to therefore vote in favour of retaining weekly bin collections.
Yeah.